Okay, before anyone comments on my critique saying that I'm bullying and stuff like that, I would recommend you read the disclaimer. I'll keep it up for a few seconds just for you guys to read it all. Got it now? Good. Now let's go on to the critique now. You know, I better not get any ideas for sequels. That would be highly unoriginal. Yep, no originality whatsoever. Just plain and oh fuck. Sup guys, Spacey here, and today we have another sequel. And this time we'll be back at two targets that I've covered before, but I've somehow sprung back into consciousness thanks to new stuff that has flown my way thanks to others. One is a target that's gotten worse and is heading in a very spurgy spiral that's going to lead to their ultimate demise, and the other is whole new information that dates back to nearly 8 years. It's going to be one wild ride, that's for sure, albeit two short ones with not that much detail. Now, before we start, I have to mention the numbering scheme on this one because last time I did a sequel it was a full number, but here we have a 0.5 sort of ordeal. Why? Well, to keep things short, the package video part 2 was filled with new targets, but here it's all retreading, so yeah, without wasting any more time, let's get on with the targets. So, Trollsome. He has certainly got quite the history, and it seems like nothing has changed. In fact, he has gotten worse over time, with people now starting to analyze him again with my critique, and oh boy, I have a lot to say regarding his recent actions. I was originally too nice to him, mostly because I had a fresh perspective on him considering I last heard about him in 2019, and I never heard about him since the Ant Cruise video, but he always lingered as a target in my mind since then, however, and the critique was a reflection of that. Now, with the knowledge as to how he acts now, aka even worse considering his age, I could slam on him with confidence in knowing who he truly is. Let's start off with those color clones. Oh, color clones, Trollsome can't let go of you. He just splashes paint onto his female OCs like it's a YouTube Kids video, and he just keeps fapping, and it seems like Trollsome has gotten a lot hornier since I last talked about him, knowing he's expanded his range. Not only is his scratch stuff there, but also Miku Miku dance stuff, with the models taken for his own purposes. But since that's not interesting and mild, let's look at the scratch stuff, since there's a lot more interesting things that have happened since then. Like, for example, we see that he still puts Polly in sexual situations, which is still really creepy, especially post-November 2022, considering he's gonna turn into an adult at that time. In no, Trollsome, making an adult version will not get people to stop thinking about the creepy implications of it. In fact, the creepy implications only get stronger with the fact that the ex-voice of Polly, who thankfully left, is not only uncomfortable, but is also 15. A minor shouldn't be voicing what is essentially fetish material, and the fact Trollsome's too retarded and stunted to see the obvious signs, even in his own comment section, is proof any sign of change with him is nigh impossible. I really do feel bad for the voice actor, as it really sucks that this kind of mild grooming happened to them. Sure, it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things, but it's still very uncomfortable and makes Trollsome out to be very untrustworthy. But wait, it gets even worse. Not only do we have fetish works of copyrighted characters and his own OC lore, but we also have other OCs being fetishized. Two examples of this are Katara from Jack Hedgehog, which might be negligible seeing as Drac drawn diapers before, which in my opinion is the worst fetish, so yeah. Still not a great idea without permission, however, so yeah. I'm gonna keep this as negligible though, but it's not really good action in the slightest. And Ellie the Scratcher, who has had her persona fetishized with confused reactions from Ellie herself, which, yeah, that's a lot of probably act if I didn't know any context behind Trollsome, so yeah. I guess I can't blame her reaction, but that's very much unacceptable, Trollsome. But it gets even worse from there, as one of Josh's OCs, which mind you, Josh and Trollsome are no longer friends, got fetishized. And it's Lily, of course it's Lily. Even if we ignore the obvious red flag of Lily being 16, Josh has shown extreme disapproval to this, and is very uncomfortable with how Trollsome's depicting Lily here. But sadly, Trollsome never listens to Josh, or Cruz, or basically anyone else when it comes to concerns or feeling uncomfortable. Trollsome just sees OCs and decides they're perfect material for fetish mining, just making more and more color clones. And that's just one part of Trollsome's bad side. Oh boy, we could get into his social media behavior next because that's probably just as bad. And it's not just because of his special ed-like fandom, which encourages Trollsome's mentalities more by putting him into his echo chamber, but also because Trollsome really has no idea what social skills are and says some weird ass shit. Though considering how much of a special ed student he is, it's not shocking at all he thinks that way. The Poly voice actor Discord voice call is already proof enough of this, but this goes even further with him, not only being unfunny, but also oblivious to an unreal degree, even when called out for this. This has especially affected two people, Razzie and TVS. Starting with Razzie, she has been a minor Trollsome fan originally, but later after she discovered Cruz's call out alongside with a comment on Cruz's gift art showing Razzie's OC, which is very uncomfortable if you know the context as to why that gift art was made in the first place, but I digress. Also the fact Trollsome still talked to Cruz like nothing happened, which I'm shocked he's this unaware to not know the beef and the rivalry he's most known for, which, yeah, very mentally stunted. After Razzie lost respect for Trollsome, she still tried to help Trollsome, but with a combination of his stupidity and his cult keeping him in, Razzie's advice was ignored and Razzie quit Trollsome for good after all that. As for TVS, he was a Trollsome fan creator who, despite his works being positively received within the fandom, he was neglected and ignored, with Trollsome just being an ass to TVS in general. Why he hasn't converted to being a Josh fan yet is amazing, because while they could get a bit too sad when it comes to certain mental health stuff, and could get annoying, Trollsome's just an asshole who doesn't care for him in the slightest, and that includes his fanbase as well, except for Razzie who wants him to be fine. Seriously, it just shows an absolute asshole mentality when it comes to Trollsome. If he isn't a special ed spastic just being stupid all around, then he's a complete asshole to people and just showing no remorse for them whatsoever. From what I know, TVS is fine now, but it still leaves a rather permanent mark on Trollsome's reputation that can't be healed unless he actually decides to apologize, which I know he's not. But yeah, after all that drama, all that embarrassment, Trollsome's Twitter was finally taken down by Cruz, which means where does Trollsome have to go now? Well, let's just say he moved to the metaverse lizard robot person place, Facebook. And yeah, that's a fate that's very much deserved for him. So good riddance, Trollsome. Good fucking riddance. Your shitty content, your absolutely abhorrent behavior will not be missed by anyone with an actual brain. Now let's move on to Wogglebug. Since the Wogglebug video was published, I have gotten several comments about further info on the Wogglebug and the creator as well. Stuff I didn't know originally, so it was a shock to see more, but yes, I know we scratched the surface of the Wogglebug. This thread contains all the shenanigans about the Wogglebug, so let's look into the shit I missed because oh boy, there's a lot to unpack. So, the Kiwi Forums thread started back on July 22nd, 2014, with a summary of the cow and the people's reactions, but eventually, Cynthia Hansen herself, under the name Wogglebug Lover, which, yeah, pretty subtle name, joined on July 24th, 2014, and while I just assumed the worst she did was those anti-Oz videos, but my god, she is so much worse. Before we get into that though, let's look at the bio on her fanfiction.net. Something I completely missed originally because it wasn't linked on the site, but it does expose a lot of info that is there to unpack. First off, I guess running away from your problems is better than dealing with them. And yes, the few benefits compared to the mountains of flaws of autism. Absolutely amazing. Oh boy, that atheism joke also aged extremely amazingly on that original video as well, and I didn't even know that fact going in. Woohoo! And yeah, that's also some nice confirmation of this being a Woggle cult. I like gay, being on the FBI hit list, basic stuff, stereotypes, basic human tasks, and destroying religion, like a normal human. I hate things that go against the Wogglebug cult. Gee, I wonder what your definition of annoying is. Anything that challenges her media taste, and things every human hates. Also, those favorite characters, basic ass taste. Though knowing my taste, I'm not much better, only it's way more obscure instead of completely obvious stuff. I also love this quote page as well because it contains lines from such hits as Family Matters, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Fat Albert, and Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed. Yeah, best sources for quotes. But yeah, other than the bio and some interesting subject matter and some of her fanfiction, it's very much boring and not at all interesting. It's almost like they got the godly animation, huge hate boners, and arguments with the trolls. The stories themselves are absolutely boring, and she absolutely needs to take writing advice, but she absolutely refuses to. Whoop-dee-doo. Circling back to the Kiwi Farms thread, and we see and learn a lot of stuff about Cynthia herself. Here are several highlights from that journey through the thread. First is that the idea of the Wogglebug dated all the way back to 2002, as far as I know. Now, Cynthia has mentioned that she was introduced to Wogglebug since the age of 12, but this shows that she was making original content for her for a long ass time, including a goddamn AMV of the Wogglebug, oddly enough. Yeah, predating YouTube with all that. Later on, in 2011, Wogglebug would make the jump to 3D, and speaking of 3D content, many assets, including Wogglebug himself, are store-bought assets, which means Wogglebug is the animation equivalent to those Unity asset flip games that exist. Goody. I mean, I thought these models were commissioned, but the fact they're not makes much more sense looking deeper into her. Mostly the fact that her worldview is very wacky to say the very least. She's a major hypocrite when it comes to many things, and she's been shown to make many questionable choices in her series as well, which have been memed to death, and it's just fascinating seeing all the wildly fucked up darker side of Wogglebug. Like, genuinely, this shit could unironically be good on its own. That's how far into the rabbit hole this has gotten. How does Cynthia react to all this though? With aggression, of course. Lots of it as well. Usually after she says she will ignore them, and then decides to interact with them again because she is desperate for attention. Hell, this mentality is why Saberspark didn't review the movie, since Cynthia sent an email to tell him not to review it. A major mistake since it cut off both free marketing and making people more aware of her movie, but it showed once and for all that meaningful critiques of her work is bad and it will destroy the Wogglebug, which she has built up as this mystical figure. It really does reek of narcissism that furthers my comparison to Derek Savage, and if this image is anything to go by, that's just her schizophrenia at work. It's truly awe-inspiring to see this in action, and she's really just a plain old lol cow at the end of the day as well. No major strings attached, and honestly, that makes her a lot more enjoyable compared to other lol cows, and this is just the highlights. There's a lot more to her not shown here, so I highly recommend looking at the thread by searching it up. It's a national treasure, that's for sure. You can even find me as well, which I am very shocked I managed to be both mentioned and archived. As for how this thread changes my opinions on Cynthia herself, well, let's just say I view Cynthia in a way more negative light than before, where I just thought she was an innocent person who bore on having Down syndrome before. I now feel no remorse for trashing her and the content she has. With all that done now, we can conclude the video because I have not only milked, but also beat these cows to death, so I better end it before I get called a criminal. So, this was an interesting sequel. Two people who, while they might be different at first, turn out to have the same issues with obliviousness and taking the hint. They've also lost any sympathy I had for them, due to them essentially performing actions that I would very much disapprove of and anyone with a brain would not like. Though now that I beat these horses to death, I better burn the corpses and move on to something original. Dare I say, it's gonna be something special for my 5th anniversary. So yeah, this is Spacey, and see you all next time. Bye! Sup guys, Spacey here, and if you enjoyed the review and want more content out of me, go and sub to this channel and my other channels as well, along with following my Twitter where I not only give updates and retweet funnies, but I will also give you art, alongside new grounds of pillow for it. Anyway, this is Spacey, signing off. Bye!